Thank you, Sheriff. Our first order of business this evening is our prayer, which will be led by Commissioner Carragher, and immediately following the pledge led by Commissioner Ford.
Let us bow our heads. I pray that you be with this assembled representation of the people of Washington County. In this time of divide and strife, I pray for your healing, your powers of healing, for this divided country. Help us to find common ground and to focus our minds and hearts on your divine powers. Clear our minds tonight so that we seek your guidance, wisdom, and truth. These things we pray, dear God. Amen.
Amen.
Let's honor America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our next item of business this evening is for our roll call. If you will indicate your presence here this evening. We have 13 present and 2 absent. We do have a quorum. Our next item is item 4, is a determination of essential function of the governing body and approval of the agenda. I'm sure you've had a chance to review the agenda and determine its essential function. Commissioner Lott?
Could we make part that has Ms. Brooks? It's one of the first things we do.
Yes, we can. Is there any objection to moving that item to item 7? Okay, we'll go ahead and move that item. That's under the Budget Committee report, is that correct?
Yeah.
Old business, thank you, Commissioner Tester. All right, we'll move that item under item 7. Is there any other corrections or additions to the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion made by Commissioner Carragher, seconded by Commissioner Jones to approve the agenda. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Backing up just a moment, as announced, we did have 13 present and 2 vacancies, not absences. So if you are vacant, you cannot be absent. So we just wanted to clarify that for the record. Allison is always keeping me straight, and I appreciate her doing that. Next item is we'll move into the public comment portion of our agenda. Each individual will be given 3 minutes to address the board regarding agenda items. We do have some individuals signed up this evening to speak on public comment. I'll go ahead and call their names, and if they'll come forward to the podium and give their name and address to the clerk, we'll go ahead and give them 3 minutes to address the board. Our first speaker is Mr. Jim Bowman. Jim, if you'll come forward to the podium. You may have to talk into that mic, Jim. We're doing some microphone adjusting tonight, so.
I'm Jim Bowman. I'm a foreigner here. I'm a resident of Unicoi County, 189 Bernie Blankenship Road, Irwin. Today, Mr. Chairman, the United States Senate took up the matter of appointment of a justice to the United States Supreme Court. This evening, this commission is taking up the matter of appointment of a judge to the General Sessions Court. On a personal and daily basis, that appointment is far more important to most of us, if not all of us, than anything that the United States Supreme Court does. I stand here today to endorse the appointment of Judge Janet Harden to that position. I've known Ms. Harden probably for 40 years, give or take. I have known her as a member of a defense firm in Knoxville for probably one of the leading firms in Tennessee, if not the southeastern United States. But I guess she wanted to come home, so for about the past 30 years, she has been a assistant district attorney in this district. I've handled innumerable cases against her over that period of time. She recently retired from that position. I can think of no one who is more suited to assume a role of General Sessions judge based on her experience over close to 40 years, maybe a bit more. The everyday General Sessions Court throughout the year probably handles, I think, in excess of 10,000 cases. That's 10,000 people, and if there's somebody on the other side, multiply that and make it 20,000. People that form an opinion about the quality of justice in Washington County. That's what makes this job so important. I know from my dealings with her that she is knowledgeable in the law. She understands fully the impact that a decision in a case has on individuals and on the system. And I hope you will certainly give her favorable consideration to appoint her for the remainder of this term. Thank you.
I'd cut off my mic to try to cut some feedback, but thank you, Mr. Bowman. Our next speaker is Mr. Kimball Sterling. Mr. Sterling, if you'll come forward to the microphone, please.
The microphone's a little low for me, but
It may work better that way. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I'm going to cut mine off so you can speak,
Okay.
Mr. Sterling.
I stand here in support of Janet Harden also. I've known Janet for many years. I know her as a mother. I know her as a wife. Not my wife, but I know her as a wife. And I know her as an attorney. And now I know her as a judge. She knows the law as well as anybody in this county. You know, she went through a vetting process with the governor's office. She went through the same vetting as an appeals court judge or a Supreme Court judge. That's what happens when they vet these people for the replacement of a sessions judge. And I know what that vetting's about. I'm now commissioner with the Department of Commerce and Insurance. I know the vetting I went through, and hers was twice as hard as mine, I'm sure. But she'll make your judges work hard in this county. She'll know the law, and she'll apply the law to all cases. Thank you.
All right, our last speaker is Stacy Henson. Stacy, if you'll come forward to the podium, please.
I'm Stacy Henson. I live at 305 Coldwater Drive in Johnson City. And I just wanted to briefly tell you all, I am here today to encourage you. I know you are going to be voting to fill the vacant seat in District 7. I wanted to let you know that I'm here to support David Alligood for that position. David is someone that I have known for almost 20 years. I have known him as a personal friend. I have seen him conduct himself as a family man in an honorable way. I've also watched him in leadership positions in our churches, a couple of different churches throughout the years. He is a man of integrity and honor. He is the kind of man that this community needs. Would trust him with my life. I have seen him make decisions thoughtfully, prayerfully, and he is a very thorough man. He is a very honorable man, and I am 100% certain that he would conduct himself in a way that would honor not just this community, but our state. I have watched him lead a life of service. He loves people, he loves his community, and he would be an excellent candidate for this body. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that completes our public comment portion of our meeting. And now we will move into our public hearing for rezoning. Our very first rezoning tonight is B&G and MLS Investments in the 12th Civil District is requesting an R1 low-density residential district to the PRD2 residential district. Is there anyone here that would wish to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and move into regular session. This time, we'll have our planning director, Angie Charles, come to the podium, and she will present her findings here on this rezoning.
Thank you. This property is located in Gray on Gray Station Road, adjacent to the villas at the Old Mill Residential Development. If rezoned to PRD2, which is our planned residential district, the petitioner intends to utilize the site to expand the villas at the Old Mill with an additional 28 units being proposed. The Planning Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this rezoning to you for consideration. May I answer any questions?
Anyone with any questions for Angie?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to point out that within this resolution, there's a statement that we considered the September meeting when in fact it was October, and we will correct that with the final form, but just for good order tonight in case that matters to any of the commissioners.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Angie. We
Thank you.
appreciate you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
All right, that leaves on our agenda tonight to consider resolution number 2010-01. It's a resolution rezoning a parcel in the 12th Civil District presently owned by B&G MLS Investments.
I'll make the motion, we approve that.
Motion made by Commissioner Harris to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Carriger. Do you have any discussion or questions? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. All right, we did move the item under old business up under to the planning and zoning to discuss it. And that was Resolution 2009-14 that was deferred from the September 28th, 2020 Commission meeting. The resolution is authorized spending from the fiscal year budget for 2021, the environmental court cleanup of property owned by Elaine Ferris Broyles located at 105 Broyles Road in Limestone, Tennessee. Commissioner Lott?
I'd like to request that we defer this for 6 months. That's a motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to defer for 6 months. Have a question or discussion? Commissioner Wheeler?
Just so we understand, is it, I think I understand you all are working with the nonprofit organization, but could somebody address that? Is that the reason for the 6-month request?
If I'm not, Mr. Chairman, Allison Wilkinson and I have been in contact with the Appalachian Service Project, and the information we got back from those folks is that they do not have any volunteers to do cleanups. Their mission is to build, steps, wheelchair ramps, go in and remodel kitchens, living rooms, things like that. And I think, Ms. Wilkinson, I think you've had some further contact with them that you might want to bring to the commission.
I'm happy to, if it would be helpful. Yes, our office, Teresa Stutz and I both have spoken to representatives, and they have sent, it was another property, that they sent a volunteer out to assess the type of work to see if it was something that they could lend the time of their volunteers and the tools that they had. But it's really not a cleanup type of crew that they have. But it is a good relationship for the county and something that we were very happy to work on. There may come a time in another matter that a family is in need of something that Appalachian Services could provide, but cleanup, clearing, debris removal, and destruction of sheds and that sort of thing is not within the scope of what those volunteers do or are equipped to do.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Mr. Chairman, we moved I believe five matters forward that had been delayed for months, and we were somewhat, there were commissioners somewhat critical of the Budget Committee for taking that long. I just think that I'd like to know what the reasoning is behind delaying this for 6 months. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I'd like to hear the reasoning behind doing that.
All right.
Her family are working on that property right now, and they've done quite a bit of work. They really have. And they need more time. It will be taken care of.
Commissioner Harris, did you need to be recognized?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Light. That's in my district. And Ms. Broyles is here tonight. We spoke to her, and she is trying. You know, during this time of COVID, it's hard to get volunteers. It's hard to get a group together to do anything. So
Absolutely.
hopefully, if we could have 6 months as her commissioner, I would appreciate giving her that time, and I'll do what I can to help her. I've told her that, and so is Steve. So it's just a hard time to get people right now together to do anything. And I appreciate what Commissioner Carragher did by following through on that for us.
Right. Any further questions or discussions before we vote to defer this item? Questions been called? On the motion to defer, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. And the motion passes. The item will be deferred for 6 months. All right, our next item here this evening is, let me get back on track where I was. Mayor Grandy, you have a very special proclamation. I know you do, so we'll get right to that.
Jesse, would y'all come up? John, you want to come up and join? Why don't y'all just stand right over here where everybody can get a good look at a man who's dedicated his entire life to Washington County, I think. Thank you, appreciate that. So, you too. You know, this is actually a bittersweet opportunity to come before this group because these are very special people. Jesse's a very special individual, and he's being acknowledged by his leader.
And then this proclamation, whereas Jesse R. Roberts, a lifelong member of the Harmony community, joined the Washington County Highway Department on February 29th, 1977, and will retire on October 30th, 2020, in his 43 years and 8 months. Now, that is amazing. Of service, make him the longest employee of Washington County Highway Department. And whereas, since 1977, he has dependably been the first to arrive in the early morning hours as a driver for the entirety of his career with the Highway Department, hauling asphalt in the warm months and using the same truck to push snow in the winter. In almost 44 years of work, Jesse Roberts has never missed a blizzard. And whereas everyone who has worked with Jesse describes him as a good man and a hard worker, the one to call when the chips are down, because he is the most honest and dependable man anyone would ever want to meet. And someone who brought a smile with him to work each and every day. He put one on the faces of his colleagues at the Highway Department. And so it is his friendship and good cheer that will be most missed. And whereas Jesse Roberts may have spent as much as 85,000 hours driving for Washington County, now that would give you a sore, since 1977, and someone summed it up that he would need brake service the least of any driver, which tells us that he conducted himself in a way that did not put strain on the engine, did not waste fuel, and did not drive aggressively. And whereas the Kenworth tandem truck, known as 321 at Washington County Block 3, the Fall Branch and Sulphur Springs area, will not be the same without Jesse Roberts behind the wheel on the roads, but everyone hopes that his retirement will give him all the opportunity to spend time with the people he most loves, especially his wife and daughter, doing what he most enjoys. And whereas at the request of John B. Deakins, Jr., Road Superintendent of Washington County Highway Department, and the Public Works Committee of the Board of the County Commissioners of Washington County, Tennessee, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Tennessee, that with the fondest well wishes, Washington County recognizes and pays tribute to Jesse R. Roberts upon his retirement for his demonstratively solid work ethic, his distinguished and consistent attendance, his dependable service, and his dedication to Washington County Highway Department, and through his work, Washington County as a whole. Congratulations, and we'll miss you greatly.
Do we have a motion? Motion made by approve the proclamation, seconded by Commissioner Light. Motion made by Commissioner Ford. All in favor of the motion to approve it, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign, and the proclamation passes. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jesse.
I'd like to say a couple of things, so, I don't like to talk much, but one part that's left out is all that time he's driven, he's never had an accident. And the only employee you ever had to get over 50,000 miles on a set of brakes on a truck. He's just smooth, consistent, all day long. The first guy to load out every morning, and the first guy to come to work every morning. So, and you don't find many people like that anymore. So, we're going to miss him dearly. So, Jesse, congratulations, Daddy.
Thank you, Jesse.
You too, Bob. Of course, Barbara may have been back at work about after snow's gone. We don't know yet.
One of the pieces of trivia I learned this week from Mr. Deakins was who has been there longer than Johnny Deakins. Jesse is one of them, right, Johnny? He's been there longer than you, so that was very interesting to me.
Three. We had one retire down at Block 1 was 40 years last week. And then that leaves Richard, he's 1 year behind Jesse. So, and then David Rush, he's been there 40-plus years. So
Wow.
we've got, you know, I'm still in the 30s.
So that's a lot to be said. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you again, Jesse. All right. All right, our next item is receive and consider the minutes from our September 28th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Commissioner Tester?
I move we approve them, Chairman, with those two minor corrections that we, before the meeting started. Resolution 2009-12, Commissioner Wheeler abstained, and it wasn't listed that way. And Resolution 2009-18 was listed as 2008-18.
All right. Do we have a second on that motion
Second.
as amended? Right. Second by Commissioner Carriger. With those changes, any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. And the motion passes, and we have accepted the minutes. All right. And our next item is elections, appointments, and confirmations. Our appointment tonight will be one of them will be the District 7 Commission vacancy. Before I open the floor for nominations, I feel like that the commissioners that are nominated will have an opportunity to come forward and say speak for 3 minutes. There may be here people that are not nominated. If you would like to hear from them, we can hear from everyone, or it's customarily we hear from the people that are nominated. Allison, would you like to brief us on some things that before we vote, where we are as far as vacancies go and how that plays into a quorum? Yes, you are powered now.
Connected. There we go. I can tell the difference. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'd like to remind you of this evening is something a little, you have an unusual circumstance, that you have 2 vacancies, and you have a Tennessee Code annotated under 55109 that you usually use in considering what is a majority for a vote. And normally, as you know, it is the 8 of your 15. So there are different rules about vacancies, about absences or abstaining or setting out a vote. But with respect to an actual vacancy, that will change things for you. There is case law from the Tennessee Supreme Court and Court of Appeals, and there are a number of Attorney General opinions. And just in plain language, if a seat or seats are vacant, only a majority of the seats that are presently filled is required. So what that means to you this evening with respect to your votes is that 7 votes will be required in order for it to be a majority of this body. I think that's the long and short of it. If you have any questions or I wasn't clear, I'm happy to walk through it in more detail for you.
All right. Commissioner Wheeler?
So is my understanding that to be appointed requires a majority vote?
That's correct. But it is a majority of the actual membership as opposed to the total authorized membership, which is 15. This is a legislative body of authorized 15 members. However, you actually have 13 at this time. Therefore, the majority is 7.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions, or Commissioner Malone?
I'm just curious if this is coming early in the agenda, if we actually vote and and appoint a commissioner, a new commissioner to fill this seat, will they take that seat tonight, or will they take the seat in the next commission meeting?
They're prepared, our clerk is here prepared to swear that member in and go ahead and take his seat tonight, or her. Commissioner Carriger, do you have a question? All right. All right, is there any further questions before I open the floor for nominations? Seeing none, I'll open the floor for nominations. Commissioner Carriger?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mr. Larry Kay. Fill that.
All right, Commissioner Carriger nominates Larry Kate. Commissioner Fitzgerald? Commissioner Fitzgerald nominates Scott Hawley. Commissioner Malone?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate David Olligood.
Commissioner Malone nominates David Olligood. Is there any further nominations? We'll close the nominations, and we'll go ahead and call our candidates as they were nominated up to speak for 3 minutes. Larry Kate, if you'll come forward to the podium. Larry? Now, Larry, I will not start your time until you get up here and get ready to speak. And I get my clock right. So, all right, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, my name is Larry Cade, and I'm honored to be nominated for Larry England's seat on the commission. Now, before I say anything else, I'd like to just tell you that I was told by Chairman Matherly and also Mr. Carriger that I should, dress up a little bit, because I'm known for not dressing up. And they said wear a coat and tie. Well, I got everything out. Halfway down from Johnson City, I look over at my coat. I'd picked out what I thought was a blue blazer, but instead it was black. So instead of putting that on, I just left it back in my seat. But once again, my name is Larry Kate, and I've lived in Johnson City now for 43 years. I'm a graduate of Tennessee Military Institute, also Tennessee Wesleyan University with majors in accounting and economics. After I graduated, I went to work as an auditor for First National Bank, Sullivan County. And after that, I went and started working in the commercial loan field for several banks. And that lasted for over 30 years. Once I completed that, the banking crisis had come about. I went to work for the FDIC for 4 years during the banking crisis. And at that time, I had an office in Jacksonville. We kept our home here in Johnson City. I came back every 6-8 weeks. And I was with FDIC around 4 years. At that point in time, our job was we were conduit between the failed bank and the assuming bank. And after all that's got straightened out, I came back to Johnson City and thought I'd retire. Well, to be honest with you, retirement's driving me crazy, and I'm interested in going out and paying back the community for what they've done for me over the years. And that's basically, and let me go back. Some of the things I've done, I was on, in Johnson City, I was on the Board of Dwelling Standards for over 20 years. Part of that time as chairman. Been, several nonprofit organizations. I've been on their board, Boys Club, several of them. And that's basically, I've got 3 children, all of them are ETSU graduates. My wife was a nurse at the VA for many years.
Larry,
Yeah,
I hate to cut you off
that's good.
towards the end, but we appreciate you coming to speak. And, as I have to say, your time has expired, but we appreciate you very much. All right, our next speaker's Mr. Scott Hawley. Scott, are you? There you go.
First of all, I want to thank the commissioners for having me here, and I want to thank the public here too. And I would like to say something before I start my speech. I did write it down and have my wife to type it. I want everybody to know that's here tonight that everything that I say does come from the heart, and I'm a member of no country club or no special interest groups in Washington County. Most of y'all know me, but if there are people out there that don't know me, my name is Scott Heath Hawley, and I'm a Christian conservative Republican. I grew up here in Washington County, went to school here, have raised my family here, raising my granddaughter here. She goes to Town Acres School. I have been in business for 39 years in Washington County and still run 4 successful businesses. I have 2 local and long-distance moving companies in the Tri-Cities, a packing service, and excavation company. I learned my values from 2 loving parents. Both of them are not here now. They're no longer with us. And I sure do miss them. I learned that what matters is not your name, but it's how you treat people. That usually get more done when you work together. And, you know, the people of Washington County, I will fight for you, but I also learned that you have to be prepared to take on tough fights, and that making real difference in people's lives is what matters most, and that's very true, very true. And that's what I will do if I get appointed county commissioner. I want to make a difference. My speaking and my decisions come from my heart. And I think that most of the people who knows me knows that everything comes from the heart. And I won't take this position lightly. As the Board of Commissioners, you have been taxed with filling the 7th District decision, which none of you need to take it lightly. You know, we're working for the people, the taxpayers of Washington County and Johnson City. Washington County is my roots. It runs through my veins. I'm a Washington Countyan who wants to serve his county, make a difference, and follow my family tradition, community-based service. I've been a firefighter for over 30 years, volunteer here in Washington County, and I'm still doing it at age 57. If you don't step forward, you're always going to be in the same place. If appointed, I will work hard for my district, but I also feel that as a commissioner, you work not only for your district, but the county as a whole, and that's how I feel. And that's what I will do if appointed. As a candidate for this seat, I ask you all to look at yourselves, each and every one of you. Look at yourselves when you cast your vote. Thank you all for the time, and God bless, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott. All right, our next candidate is David Hawley. Good. Come on forward to the podium, David.
Good evening. I'm David Alligood. I live at 4 Sheldrake Court. Chairman and Commissioners, I'm here to officially express my interest in filling the District 7 seat on the Commission recently vacated by Larry England. I've been a resident of Washington County for more than 18 years at this same address. I know many individuals often pursue public office because they want change or they have a particular issue that they are passionate about. This is not true for me. I did not have an agenda in mind when I first became aware of this opportunity. However, that doesn't mean that I did not make this decision lightly. Over the past several weeks, I've prayed about this and sought the counsel of family, friends, neighbors, and others whose opinions I value. Without exception, everyone has encouraged me to pursue this opportunity with a common response of we need more people like you serving in our community. My only agenda is to serve our community well. Additionally, as I've attempted to reach out to each of you to introduce myself, I greatly appreciate the 3 or 4 of you who took the extra time to share with me about your personal experience on the commission. Those conversations confirmed for me that I was taking the right step to seek this appointment. I come to you with nearly 30 years of experience in healthcare administration. Most of that time has been focused on financial reporting and analysis and managing the budget process. But my training as an industrial engineer always comes through in everything I do. My approach is to improve the process to save time and money. I also come to you with years of experience as a volunteer in our community. The recent highlight has been serving as the volunteer business administrator at Northridge Community Church. As we've grown from 1 campus to soon be 6 campuses in the past 12 years, it hasn't always been easy to manage that growth with a limited budget. I take the responsibility seriously in being a good steward of the resources that others have provided for the ministry to our community. The past few months have even been more challenging due to the impact of the pandemic. And I've learned the importance of sitting down to have a conversation with staff when there are differences of opinion on appropriate expenditures. I intend to use these experiences from my career and my volunteer roles while serving as Washington County Commissioner. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. All right. Now, we've heard from our candidates, and we'll give you some brief instructions of how we move forward with our voting. They have provided us with many pages and many phone calls, and are very good candidates that have came forward here, and we had many that did not get nominated here tonight that were very good candidates. So we're very fortunate to have such good people to step up here in Washington County to do the business there of the 7th District. So we will go ahead and move forward with our voting. Commissioner Malone?
Mr. Chairman, I was just curious, each of us, I think, simply nominated a potential candidate, I suppose. I wasn't sure if perhaps it was appropriate that we might make remarks. I don't know about the others that made nominations. Is that appropriate? Are you agreeable?
I don't know that I don't know that I've done that in the past on any appointment other than just like if we moved into a special session or appointed a committee to come back and hear.
I was just curious about the folks that nominated other individuals, about the reasons that made that nomination, and I was going to share as well.
Yes, absolutely. If the people that nominated would like to speak for their candidate, absolutely. That'll be fine. I just didn't want to go off into the path of back and forth or anything like that. But yes, you are correct, Commissioner Malone. A lot of times that's done when you nominate them, but we can back up and do that now. That's just fine. So why don't you start us, Commissioner Malone?
We'll just chalk that up to my inexperience. No, I did nominate David Ollygood. He is someone I have known, I guess, nearly his entire time in Johnson City. He is a friend. We've gone to church together for many years. He's a husband, a parent, obviously a longtime taxpayer in Washington County. And I think David possesses the qualities that are necessary and needed for a good public service. Somebody of integrity, with good morals and ethics, somebody we can trust to be a public service. And I think David is that person. And so I've had the privilege, too, of knowing both Larry England and David Ollygood. And I I think actually it's kind of interesting that I think their two personalities and demeanors are very similar. And obviously, the citizens of District 7 in Washington County had elected Larry England twice to be their commissioner. And so I think it's appropriate that, that someone with a similar mindset and demeanor as Larry England might serve in his what was his seat on this commission. Now, that said, I don't really know Scott Keith Hawley. We've had a few conversations the last few weeks, and I do know Larry, Kate, know Larry to be a fine individual, and I think he too would serve well, but I encourage you to support David Olligan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Malone. Commissioner Carragher, do you want to say some words for your nominee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've known Mr. Cate since I was 27 years of age, and I think he was about 27. He was in the audit department at First National Bank of Sullivan County, and I was a young bank examiner. And I've known Larry, his integrity is impeccable. He's a man of his word. He's been active in the community for years. He and Mary raised 3 fine children that are very productive folks in this community. And I know Larry knows a lot of the businesses in this town. He's made loans, and he's helped a lot of businesses get started in Washington County. And I can't think of a better person to serve on our commission than Mr. Larry Cate. He knows Johnson City and Washington County and the business community and the volunteer community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Fitzgerald?
Mr. Chairman, me and Scott went back since high school, grade school together, and I known him for a long time. He gave me a call a month or so ago, was interested in this position, and I'll be honest with you, I tried to talk him out of it. I said, you don't want to do that. He kept calling, so I said, okay, I'll consider you. I'll be honest with you. I said, if you got anything else that you want to do, don't come here. And I even called him before the meeting, told him don't come here, but he come anyway. And, we've been friends for a long time, and I think, he wants the opportunity to prove himself. He's a hard worker for Washington County and for the people in Washington County. He wants to prove himself he could be one of us that he really wants to strive to be. And that's the reason I considered him tonight and made nomination. I don't know the other guy, David. I don't know him. He's like a free firefelder. Mr. Gates back here, he's got the finest son in Washington County. David, his son. I got to say about your son's I'm very high on him. And Scott, like I said, I'll be able to give the man the opportunity, a chance, and see what happens, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I've been out here a long time, and people's given me opportunities, chances.
Yes, sir.
So I said, I'll just return the favor. And they didn't have to.
I appreciate your comments. I know this commission does.
Yeah.
All right. Any further questions before we bring this question? When the clerk calls your roll, if you will announce the candidate that you are voting in favor of. I will need to turn on the microphones before the clerk does that, so everyone can hear your vote.
Scott Hawley.
Would you repeat that, Commissioner? She didn't hear you.
Scott Hawley. Here.
Harris.
Hawley.
Fitzgerald.
Hawley.
Edens. Davenport.
Cates.
Matherly.
Cates.
Malone.
David Olligan.
Williams. Olligood. Carragher.
Cate.
Jones.
Olligood.
Tester.
Olligood.
Wheeler.
Cate.
Ford. Holly 5, Cate 4, Alligood 4. Looks like Holly is the winner.
All right. So no one received, no.
Okay.
You have to have 7 votes. We will refer over here, since we do have a tie on the 2 low vote getters.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's correct.
All right. Right, our attorney is going to review the rule, and our rule committee chairman is near the attorney, so that's a good thing. All right, after consideration and what we've done, we do have Mr. Holly with 5 and Mr. Cate with 4 and Mr. Alligood with 4. So we will need to go back and revote. So, Madam Clerk, if you'll prepare us, I'll go ahead and turn on the microphones and we'll get ready to revote. Why don't you go ahead, Allison, a little bit more in depth? There you go.
Very good. So I actually convened a little bit there with Commissioner Tester as the chair of the Rules Committee, and that was because several months ago, there was a change in the rules as to committee on committees that addressed this exact issue only over in that circumstance. And the question is, what happens under the normal rules that you have, just if you have your rules with you? It's Rule 10D, which is a second ballot, and it says if no one is elected on a given ballot, the nominee receiving the smallest number of votes will be dropped, and the ballot will be cast again until a nominee is elected by the required majority. And so here you have a tie, so you can't drop one off, and you don't have a majority. And so customarily, what this board has done is revote. So I was making sure, my question was to make sure with the names that I was hearing, Holly and Ollie Good, that I had written it down correctly. It wasn't anything about the number, just to make sure. So that is why a revote is being called for, because you're not in a position to drop off the lowest number, because the lowest number is held by two candidates. So when you cast your ballot this time, when you cast your vote, you have an understanding of what the votes are, and that the lowest number will drop off if a majority is not reached, and you would then cast a ballot a third time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Wilkinson. All right. Is there any questions before we get ready to vote? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you will go ahead and call the roll, and we will answer with the candidate that we're supporting.
White.
Holly?
Harris.
Holly.
Fitzgerald.
Holly.
Edens. Davenport.
Kate?
Matherly.
Kate?
Malone.
Kate.
Williams.
Kate.
Carragher.
Kate?
Jones.
Kate.
Tester.
Ollie Good.
Wheeler.
Kate.
Ford.
Ollie.
Kate's 7, Holly 5, Ollie Good 1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just let me look at the numbers just one more second. All right, Commissioner Kate has received 7 votes, and he is our new commissioner. We want to thank everyone that did participate in this process very much. Mr. Kate, if you want to come forward and get sworn in by the clerk and take your seat at the table.
Probably at the podium.
Mr. Kate, if you will raise your right hand, and after I read this statement, if you will say, "I will." I do solemnly swear that I will perform with fidelity the duties of the office to which I've been elected and which I'm about to assume. I do solemnly swear to support the constitutions of Tennessee and the United States, and to faithfully perform the duties of the office of County Commissioner representing the 7th District of Washington County, Tennessee.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Larry? We still have time if you need to finish any speaking or anything tonight. This is the only time we'll give you. speaking to our attorney, she did remind me that this will, once we fill this vacancy, it will change back the number of a majority vote now. After Commissioner Kate was sworn in, it will change our number back to 8. So going forward, we will need 8. All right, our next item is, we're still under elections, confirmations. The next item is the General Sessions Court vacancy. We'll go ahead and open the floor for nominations. Commissioner Wheeler?
Mr. Chairman, I seek recognition this evening to nominate a personal and professional friend. We've raised our children together. She started her career a good bit earlier than I did, but I've watched her. She served as a mentor as I came through, even though we do different types of law practice. When I heard that she had put her name in when the governor selected a temporary replacement earlier this year, I knew immediately that we would be hard-pressed to find a candidate who was better or more qualified. Janet Harden has worked on both the prosecution side and the defense side. When I have helped in the past with people who have sought appointments to judicial vacancies or election as a judge, one of the most important things that I look for as a lawyer is somebody who will be fair. If you find somebody who will truly be fair, they're going to make a good judge. And I think that's one of the strong qualities that Janet Harden has. She served for 3 months. That's a unique situation when you appoint in this type of situation to have somebody who's served for 3 months. I think the stack of letters that we received at our desk this evening show the excitement that the bar, the attorneys that practice in that court have for the work that she's done in those 3 months. I would also point out that she knew going into that it likely would be temporary, that unfortunately Judge Nightford would probably not be returning to the bench. That was a sacrifice for this community, in my opinion. She gave up her private practice, which she had begun shortly after she retired from the district attorney's office. She had started to build a strong private practice. She gave that up. She closed her office, and she took that position for however long it might last, knowing full well that she would potentially face having to seek reappointment. And again, I feel like that was a sacrifice she made for her community. I would, you've seen her resume, each of you received a copy of that, and my colleague at the bar went through that as he spoke on her behalf earlier tonight. So I won't go back through that again, but I would say that if you look at her qualifications and you look at her experience, that Janet Harden would make an excellent General Sessions judge, and I would go so far as to say that we have evidence before us that she's already making a very good General Sessions judge. So it's with great pleasure that I nominate Janet Harden for this position.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we have placed Janet Harden's name in the nomination. Is there any further names? No, it's not. It don't require a second.
Mr. Chairman, I move for further nominations, that nomination cease, and we elect Ms. Harden by acclamation.
Thank you, Commissioner Carriger. The nominations is called to cease. And she be elected by acclamation. Second that motion by Commissioner Tester. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Congratulations, Ms. Harden. If you'll come forward up to the podium, we're not going to let you off too easy. Maybe Maybe I should say Judge Harden before I get in trouble here.
I'm Janet. Thank each and every one of you. I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you for your confidence in me and for your vote tonight. I was born and raised here, but I went away to Knoxville for 10 years, but I came home. And I got married here. My husband's here. I have 25-year-old twins. My daughter's in law school. My son's in the Army, and he's deployed. And I have 2 grandkids. But most of all, what I am is a criminal lawyer. And I'm not sure what it says about me that I'm the most comfortable in a courtroom, but I am. And I love it. And the combination of the time that I was a defense attorney and a prosecutor led me to this point in my career. And when the governor appointed me, I was humbled, but I am extraordinarily honored by your confidence in me tonight. And I don't get nervous on the other side of the bench like I am right now, but I promise you that this is how seriously I take this position and your confidence in me, and I promise you I will work hard for the citizens of Washington County. And the most important thing to me as a judge is that when people come into my courtroom, they know they had a fair shot. They are heard, and they're treated respectfully regardless of who they are or what they do. They may not agree with what I do, but they feel like they had their day in court, and I promise I'll continue to do that. And I really just want to say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Tomorrow, Judge Harden will be sworn in by Chancellor Johnson or one of our circuit court judges. All right, our next item is the county mayor's report. Mayor Grandy. Thank you, Mayor. Was there any questions for the mayor? Mayor?
Well, you're probably not going to like this report, but I just spent the hour before coming here tonight in consultation with our local medical professionals from Allen University and our local regional health. Report in the community right now, as you read in the newspaper and so forth, is really very, very eerie scenario with cases growing almost exponentially, and a hospital inpatient count going up, as you would expect. So this morning we were 166 inpatients in the system, and that's the highest number that we've had so far to date. We'll make a decision later in the week specifically about what we do with these things, but I think it's important for us to consider not just the important things that the CDC has asked us to do in terms of hygiene, social distancing, and face coverings, but consider just the messaging that we need to provide to the community as leaders about doing the things that are important to try to get this, virus under control. As you know, we're coming into the flu season, and the combination of these two events going on simultaneously is something we've not seen. So we definitely need to focus on trying to keep our students in school and get them educated, and we definitely need to focus on keeping our businesses open so that our economy, can stay alive. Unemployment in Washington County has now come down to 4.9%, which is several points below where it was last month. We're on a really good trend with respect to employment and business. Sales tax revenue continues to be strong. So there are a lot of positives out there with respect to the economy, but, you know, this virus has a way of taking folks down. And when you hear the stories of the folks that are treating patients in the facilities and watching family members be lost and that sort of thing, you know, it's really staggering. So just, you know, I wish I had a better report to deliver on this tonight, but y'all can read online or in paper, however you get your information on the cases that are growing. Positive cases turn into hospitalizations. Roughly 7% of all positive cases will turn into a hospitalization, and 1.5% of those hospitalized are going to die. Statistically, that's where we are. So do what you can to encourage others as you are leaders in the community and you maneuver through your various circles in our area. You know, to do things that will help keep us healthy.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate the update. Any further questions for the mayor? Seeing. Next item is the county attorney's report. Ms. Wilkinson.
Thank you. I don't have a written report for you or anything in particular to offer, but I can answer any questions if there's anything on your mind that I can address for you.
Seeing none, thank you so hard for all your work that you've done. And
Thank you, and I am compelled to say that I thought that there was an error, and I know this reminds you of the old joke that the one time I thought I made a mistake is when I thought I made a mistake, and that was my mistake, thinking I made a mistake. I may have said that there was a typographical error in this packet, and that would reflect on Teresa, and I think Teresa has reported to me that that was a carryover. So I would just like to stand corrected that the packet did not have an error in it, and we'll work that out with Ms. Charles. She brought that to my attention in advance of the meeting. So I would just like to say thank you again for the confidence you've placed in me, and that there was no error in that resolution, and Teresa has it covered. So we will make sure one way or the other that what is signed and put in place is accurate. Thank you.
thank you. The Director of the Health Department, Mayor, do we have any word on a replacement there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that position has been posted and they're receiving nominees, and we should have a decision on that within the next 30 days.
Well, that's great news. Thank you. Director of Schools report, Dr. Flannery. I don't think he's here this evening. I know he has been very busy. Is there any questions that we can ask the mayor about schools? Well, I know he has regular information with Dr. Flannery, but we'll set it out. Seeing none. Next item is the Commercial, Industrial, and Agricultural Committee. Commissioner Carrier?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have our minutes of October the 8th, and I'd be glad to answer any questions if anybody has questions about that meeting.
Any questions for Commissioner Carrier? Seeing none, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The next item is the County-Owned Property Committee. Commissioner Carrier?
The County-Owned Property Committee met, and this shows you what happens when you don't show up for a meeting, you get elected chairman. So I appreciate all the support I got out there. We met, and the minutes are on page 19, and I'd be glad to try to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next item is the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Chairman. It's my pleasure to report on the activities of the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. On page 20 of your packet, you'll find minutes from a meeting that I did not attend, at which I also was elected chairperson for this committee. Thank you very much, and truly appreciate the trust of my colleagues and look forward to leading this committee going forward. The first item for you to consider is Resolution Number 2010-02, resolution appropriating additional funding for the purchase of propane school buses funded from the Capital Projects Fund for fiscal year 2020-2021 in the amount of $558,000. Find that on page 42. That comes with a forward, that is, it comes forward as a recommendation from the committee.
Right. Do we have a motion? Second? Did you have would you do a motion?
I'll make,
Mr. Jones?
yeah, how do I
Okay.
say that? It comes forward with a recommendation and a motion?
Form of motion.
In the form of a motion, thank you.
And second, Commissioner Ford, did you second that? All right. Any questions or discussion? Commissioner Harris?
I can speak to that. We actually spent quite a bit of time over there, and they have support through their whole shop, all their mechanics and folks that work there for continuing with the propane program. Now that they have grant-funded setup to run it, there's a lot less equipment or parts and pieces on a propane bus. They expect to break even and more on propane buses in the future.
So they've done studies that show it's actually saving the
They
county
have.
money by paying
Mhm.
more? Okay. That's
And it also comes with grants that's associated with there's grants, we have grants that will help out with this as well, with propane.
All right.
Is it? Good.
All right, any more questions or discussion before we vote on the resolution?
All
Seeing
questions?
Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you will switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
Okay, the next item for your consideration is Resolution Number 2010-03, a resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding the reallocation of funds for gray exterior brick repair. This comes, how do I say it? This comes recommended in the form of a motion. No, wait,
Good job.
say it to me again.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Lott to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call for the question.
The question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, announce the vote. 14 yes, 0 no. The resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
Okay, the next resolution for your consideration is Resolution 2010-04, resolution amending the fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding the appropriation of funds for upgrades to Fall Branch and Sulphur Springs door hardware and controls. This comes recommended from the committee, and I move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Ford to approve the resolution. Discussion? Questions?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 abstained, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
The next resolution for your consideration is Resolution Number 2010-05, Resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding appropriation of funds from Library Technology Grant for purchase of Chromebooks and barcode scanners. This comes with a motion for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Carriger. Discussion or question? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
The next item for your consideration is Resolution Number 2010-06, the resolution authorizing the purchase of school technology items. And I move for approval of this motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution. Second by Commissioner Edens. Discussion or questions? Commissioner Tester?
Mr. Chairman, I was just curious if anybody had looked into the use of the grant funds from the state of Tennessee for COVID for school system, since they're doing all the remote learning and everything and technology. Seems like that would apply.
Mayor, do you want to weigh in on that question?
So the answer to that is absolutely yes. It seems to me they've ordered over and are in the process of receiving over 6,000 Chromebooks they're dispersed to students. So that money is being spent. This particular funding is an appropriation that we have budgeted for the last several years, $640,000 for additional technology in the system. And with, as you can imagine, with all the activity around remote learning, it's desperately needed right now.
Is any of this going to be reimbursed from that?
This will not be. This has been budgeted in the capital projects budget.
But they're doing additional technology with COVID funds.
A lot of it, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Tester. Any further questions or discussion?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
The last resolution for you to consider from Hugh Committee is Resolution Number 2010-07, resolution authorizing the replacement of Daniel Boone High School roof. This comes to you with the recommendation of the committee, and I move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Lott to approve the resolution. Discussion or question? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 abstained, and the resolution passes. All right, anything else, Commissioner Jones?
No, that's all business for tonight.
All right, any questions for Commissioner Jones? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Public Safety Committee. Commissioner Wheeler?
Yes, you'll find our minutes on page 66 of your packet from our October 8th meeting. We have several resolutions for your consideration tonight. First is found on page 68 of your packet, resolution number 20-1008, resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding law enforcement salary supplement. This comes in the form of a motion from the committee, recommendation from the committee, and I move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
The next resolution is found on page 70 of your packet, resolution number 20-10-09, resolution approving renewal of the leased garage and storage facilities for the purpose of maintenance of the Sheriff's Department vehicles. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Light to approve the resolution. Discussion? Commissioner Tester?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. The lease itself on page 73 says $3,300 a month, but the resolution says $3,600 a month. Anybody understand why that's different?
Mayor, is that something you can address for us? Or is that,
Sir, I don't know the answer to that one. That was, the way it's presented to us from the highway, from the sheriff's department.
There's no mention in our minutes of the dollar amount. We approved the lease, which was the written lease in front of us, was the 3,600. I mean, excuse me, the 3,300.
well, clearly if there's,
The question is whether or not that was an increase. The answer is no to that. It's the same amount.
I'll turn it on for you. Hang on just a minute, Commissioner Williams. There you go.
For 5 years or 60 payments, it's quite a bit of money. Has the county ever looked into building a metal building to take place rather than leasing?
Not to my knowledge, but that's probably a good thought.
I think it's a substantial building there. And I don't know what it would cost as far as the replacement of that garage would go. It was I guess they put a lot of work into making it a garage and a storage area. So I guess really that's one of the sheriff's purviews of this lease. And I know that the mayor don't really want to discuss his lease, I'm sure, and I don't think anybody from the sheriff's office is here that would want to discuss this lease, so. Is there well,
It's been 33.
Yeah, the numbers in the lease are the amount that we've been paying the two landlords when they have not changed. So it's, the resolution should probably say 33.
so the resolution should say 3,300?
That's my understanding of looking at the lease.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution.
I move we amended to 3,300.
Thank you, Commissioner Tester. Commissioner
Second.
Wheeler, was that a second?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, I've got a motion and a second to amend the resolution from 3,600 to 3,300. Do we need to vote on that as an amendment, Ms. Wilkinson, or as long as everybody accept that number, we're good?
And I think it's a typographical error as well, so I think we can discuss it.
Okay, thank you. So we'll say that is an amended number and a typographical error. Is there any other questions or comments or before we move forward? Commissioner Williams?
No, I had my say.
Oh, I thought you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Wheeler?
if I might, addressing Mr. Williams' question, that's a very good question. And I don't know when the current lease expired. You can't tell that from this, but this lease begins November 1st, which unfortunately doesn't give us much time if there is no lease. And I think that's an excellent question. Unfortunately, I can't answer that. I think that sort of underscores one of our problems with things like this, and we're going to have the same problem if we're not careful with the Election Commission lease that's going to come back up just in a matter of a few months now that we've waited all year for some proposal on that we don't have. So we're going to be under the gun to renew that lease again, and I think that's where we find ourselves here. And I think that doesn't allow us to address questions like you've got, and I think we need to anticipate and ask that leases come back in front of us well before they expire. If we're going to, if it's being suggested to us that we renew them, that we need to have enough time, not only for the committee to ask questions, but when we get to the full commission for everybody to ask questions. I'm sorry that doesn't really address your question for tonight, but I think it's a very valid point. I don't know whether we can defer to get an answer for that or not, because I don't know whether that lease expires on this November 1st.
Well, I know that there at one time, we did, we held one lease short. I think we done it for like a year instead of 2 years or something like that. And I don't know if there's enough time for the sheriff to appear or one of his representatives next month to talk about this lease. I'm sure Alan Kiker would like to discuss it, I'm sure. But
They have, I mean, in fairness to the sheriff's department, they did mention when they brought this to the committee that they expressed a need to stay in this building, and that because of what they've put into the building as far as there are lifts and things like that that are not just moved in and used, they have to be, they're installed. The fencing, that, I don't know if you're familiar with this property, but there's a considerable amount of fencing around this property. So there's some things in addition to the building that would have to be done. So they did express their interest in staying in this building. But unfortunately, that is the extent that we can answer that question without somebody here from their department.
all right. We do have a motion and a second, and with the amended amount of $3,300. Is there any further discussion on the proposal? The question's been called. Madam Clerk, switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote. Lock it in. We have 14 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution is found on page 78 of your packet. Resolution number 20-10-10, a resolution adopting the interlocal cooperation agreement, First Judicial District Drug Task Force. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, second by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution is resolution number 20-10-11, resolution adopting the Washington County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is found on page 90 of your packet. It comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Malone to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote, lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Wheeler?
That's all for our report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Any questions for Commissioner Wheeler? All right. Next item is the Public Works Committee. Commissioner Davenport.
Yes, you'll find our minutes on page 229 of our August 8th meeting. We have two resolutions coming before you tonight, both in the form of a motion. Resolution 2010-12, resolution authorizing paving services by the Washington County Highway Department for the athletic track at the new Boones Creek Athletic Facility.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Davenport, seconded by Commissioner Edens. Yes, Commissioner Jones.
Yeah, this is just a question about process. That project has been, CIA has had oversight of that project over the last couple of years. So I'm just wondering, do we have two different committees taking action on that same project? Or was this done in, I'm just wondering if anybody has any answers on that.
I think the reason it was brought before Public Works is just because it was coming to the Highway Department, and that's, the Highway Department works through Public Works. That's the only reason that I know. I'll refer to the mayor for more insight.
Commissioner Davenport, I think that's exactly correct. In this case, the plan going forward is for the contractor who's doing the site work to leave the track graded and in a condition to base stone and pave, and that the highway department would do that portion of it because it's more efficient and less costly. So we're at that point in the project right now, and we're asking, I think in this case, authorization for the commission and the county to sort of contract with the highway department, that highway department division, to do that work. So really, that was already part of what CIA had envisioned in the approach to the site work for the project.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tester.
What's the not to exceed number filled in the blank?
That's what we were just getting ready to talk about. Mayor, do we have that number yet?
Still working on the exact number, but we do have a figure, more or less a not to exceed, which is $168,000.
So if everybody will fill in the $168,000 in the third paragraph, that's the number not to exceed. Yes, Commissioner Jones?
Out of the 3 million, do we still have $3 million budgeted? I mean, it was originally 3 million, and then I think CIA approved like $100,000 worth of dirt moving and kind of like getting things, sort of infrastructure building. Is this part of that, or is this in addition to that? Part of it?
It's part of the 3.1. So what's been approved so far for that project was that amount of money that you had talked about, and an $800,000 project for grading and getting the site developed to the point where the ball fields could be, the fences could be put up and the dugouts could be built and the concession stands, so forth, could be placed on it. So what you have to date is infrastructure, a lot of additional storm water management, water, sewer, electrical, all the rough-in utilities required to finish the project.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we do have a motion and second on the resolution. Have any further questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 abstained, and the resolution passes.
Okay. Our
Commissioner Dow.
next resolution is 2010-14. It comes before you in the form of a motion. Resolution authorizing funding to pave Emeryville Volunteer Fire Department's parking lot.
Motion made by Commissioner Davenport, seconded by Commissioner.
I think it's kind of important to point out, in this resolution, it is a resolution not to exceed $50,000. In the resolution, this money, it has been applied for through the CARES Act, so that's part of this resolution as well. That's kind of all in one package.
Right. This is the resolution that is subject to the CARES Act funding. We just want to make sure
That
that
is,
everyone understood.
that is
that.
correct. That's right.
All right, any further discussion or questions before we move on? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Got 14 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Davenport?
That's all I have unless we have any questions.
Thank you. The Rules Committee report, Commissioner Tester.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our minutes are on page 237, and we elected our new officers. Commissioner Malone, congratulations, is our new vice chairman, and Commissioner Ford is our secretary. That's all we have.
Thank you. I see that Charlie Tester made it here tonight.
Yeah, he's.
Let's welcome Charlie.
He's
while
back there in the back.
here. We just don't want to clap too loud to wake him up, you know? So, but we're sure glad to have you here, Ms. Tester and Charlie, and thank you so much for being here.
I thought about letting him do my rules committee report, but he doesn't know many words yet.
I was getting ready to have to slip him this voting, this voting machine over
Yeah, I
there.
thought I
Let
could
him
give
work
him
on
that.
that.
He'd probably just randomly push buttons.
Yeah. All right. Seeing nothing on the Rules Committee report, we'll move on. Thank you, Commissioner Tester, for that. The Budget Committee report, Commissioner Wheeler.
We found our minutes on page 238 of your packet from our October 14th meeting. We have one resolution for your consideration this evening on page 254 of your packet, resolution number 20-10-13, a resolution authorizing the replacement of HVAC system at the Ag Extension Office building. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Ford to approve the resolution. Discussion? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
That concludes our report.
Any questions for Commissioner Wheeler? Right. The item that was deferred under old business has been deferred. It was moved in the agenda, so we won't have to consider it. Next item is resolution number 2010-15. It's a resolution approving the election of notaries public for appointment or reappointment for Washington County, Tennessee. I have a motion. Motion made by Commissioner Eden, seconded by Commissioner Carriger to approve the resolution. A discussion or questions? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll move us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. A few things that left under our new business is our strategic goals that we're moving along on. Commissioner Jones, do you want to elaborate on any of that, or?
Passing around the report that we generated last January 25th when we met at Valley Brook, say 6 weeks before everything we knew changed very dramatically. But back then, in January, we listed out our three priority areas and broke into work groups and identified some specific action steps we wanted to take in these three areas. It's not an understatement to say that lots of other things have gotten in the way of moving as quickly as we would like to. And I think we really have to take a moment and evaluate, how have we done? Are these things we still want to try to make some progress on, particularly given that, come this January, we're really looking down the last year or so of our window of opportunity to do some proactive work on this commission. Commissioner Davenport, do you have any updates on water and fire?
Well, the mayor's report for the last month summed it up really well. We've had a couple of meetings. We're working diligently trying to get a grant to do Tyler Bridge. We've had a couple of meetings on that. We are working with Kingsport Water to be able to upgrade. That's in there as well, out in the Harmony area, to upgrade that service and also extend to some homes out there as well. But without the upgrade, we were not moving forward there. We've identified a couple of projects with Johnson City, and they're looking at those now, and we plan to move forward with those. We've got another meeting this Wednesday. So I really like the progress that we're making. We're making plans to get water lines in the ground, and everybody's working real hard, and the water departments are working with us. So I think we're making great progress where we were 3 months ago, and I appreciate everybody. Commissioner Fitzgerald, Commissioner Harris, do you have anything?
Water Task Force. We've done some really good meetings, and a lot of people's working with us, and I'm really excited about it. It's expensive projects. That's the only thing scary about it. It's a lot of money. We got any donors out there to be good.
Yeah.
We need them bad.
I just agree with Commissioner Davenport. I appreciate the job you're doing leading that group, and this Taylor Bridge will be a big water help for the lower end of Washington County if we can get this grant secured. So thank you for everybody who's working on that. And it's Jerome, Commissioner Fitzgerald's got some real good ideas, I think, too, about doing some stuff in-house, maybe having our own people. And I know that's something we've kicked around a lot. Landlines ourselves, which would save us money, I think. So I hope that we can keep looking at that down the road.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we have some things to bring to you that are really outside the box thinking, that Commissioner Fitzgerald really got us off dead center on in looking at ways to not starting a water department or anything like that, but a construction base to be able to save money, and how we would do that, and how that would be managed and things like that is really outside the box thinking by him that got us started. And I think we're moving pretty quickly on that as well.
And it's so nice to have a meeting where we're hearing about progress we've made on the goals we've set in a proactive way, and it was the whole purpose of doing this. So thank you all. I'll just briefly update that, as you can see, the communications group had filled its first action step by establishing a task force, but instead of the full set of items that you see under number 2, we've really just tried to focus on a couple of low-hanging fruit. So those items, the SWOT analysis and communications plan, I would consider sort of still in progress, and in particular from a commission perspective. But we have, and Ms. Saylor has worked on a social media platform plan that we think we'll be able to bring to CIA in November for their consideration, eventually on to you. so that we can use social media to get news items out to county citizens, as well as an improved website. So those things are happening within communications. And then workforce development is probably our least activated area. I heard an update from Lottie Ryan today that we are still short of businesses that have signed on to the Work Ready certification website. You may recall I've asked you to do this before. I sent you an email. It's very easy for a business to sign on. It's a very simple application. It doesn't cost any money. And we only need 10 more companies to meet the employer support goal and certify our county. The counties around us are all certified. So if you know of some business owners who would be interested in helping us out in this way, let's keep working on this. I bring this report to you for reflection. I think we all need to think about whether we want to talk again about these goals. How do you feel we're doing in these 3 areas? Are there other things that you hope to accomplish in your final year or so on the commission? And let's talk in November maybe about the possibility of getting together again in January this coming year to reconsider where we are. That's all I have, unless you all have questions or comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. We appreciate your comments, and yes, I think it'd be great if we could get together at the first of the year. Of course, and that brings up another subject as we get ready to close here tonight is as the mayor has talked about these cases of COVID continuing to go up and our positivity rate going up. Of course, I'm always watching that and consulting with the mayor and health officials on sometimes what's our best course of action here. Truly tonight we had some critical things already scheduled on the agenda with public hearings already scheduled, and it was critical that you were here, and I appreciate each one of you attending. So we'll be keeping a very vigilant eye on COVID and how it is doing here in Washington County. The mayor is he's great to keep me informed, and he stays on top of that. One of the last things I'd like to do, we had some ETSU students here with Dr. Keller tonight. They're government students, so they're just here to kind of see what's going on, and we appreciate them being here. I would ask them if they'd like to come up and speak and tell us what they thought, but I don't know if I'm that brave, but I appreciate them being here. Dr. Keller, thank you all for being here. Fellas, I understand, ladies, it's hard to be in college right now with the conditions you're in, and we definitely sympathize with you, and we're going to be praying that this COVID's going to get better in our county.
Chairman, can I say one more
Yes,
thing?
Commissioner Jones.
I'd like to come back to the issue around our meetings and just indicate my support for moving this meeting to Zoom at the end of the month in November. If we're in the same situation that we're in right now, I think you all know that our hospitals are approaching capacity. And, you know, whether you personally get COVID or not, I think the whole healthcare system is going to start to feel the impact of the demand on healthcare providers needing to do hospital service, healthcare providers that have been quarantined from exposure, and even if you need something in primary care, you might not be able to get it. So in an effort to show leadership in our community and make the hard decision to stay home when we'd rather be here, and I'd definitely rather be here, I think that'd be a really good move, and I would support you making that decision if you need to. I know you've really struggled, Chairman, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. It is a struggle each time, and I have good counsel, Commissioner Wheeler, and the mayor, and we have, what's best. And clearly, we had things on the agenda tonight that we wanted to get done, and like I said, we'll be constantly monitoring that and trying to make the best decision possible. One last thing tonight, for me, I wanted to thank Sherry and Teresa and Susan for putting up with me this entire month and all these things. Susan, thank you for getting our microphones working. It was not me. I'm not taking no credit for it. It was Susan. So we appreciate you. Everybody's got their picture up here on my screen. I'll show it to you one day. But, yeah. But Susan, thank you for all your work. I know she was here this week. She come in. She worked during the day. I mean, she's been really good at making this a great success. So thank you, Susan. All right. With that, I have nothing left to say. Does anyone have anything to say before we adjourn? Any comments? Or Commissioner Williams?
Have we ever reviewed consent agenda? I know the former attorney didn't want anything put on a consent agenda.
Actually, we're very fortunate here. I remember when I first started doing chairman, we had hundreds of resolutions. And each resolution cost $150. And me and Mayor Eldridge, we were trying to reduce these things. So now the Budget Committee can approve certain line item changes and transfers, and we really don't have to bring all that to a consent agenda. You know, you'll see a list of all the things that the Budget Committee does. But, you know, if it's a change between departments, the commission has to approve it. But, you know, we were writing $150 resolutions to move $100 for a subscription. And, you know, I think we finally got all that fixed, and it actually works a little better than a consent agenda. So that's been very cost effective for the county, and yes, you're right. It's been very good. Otherwise, you would probably have about, 20, 30. I don't know. We'd have to ask Mitch and see how many more resolutions you'd have a month, and you'd have to vote on, and they'd all have to be signed and go through the process. Is there any further questions or comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Commissioner Eden, seconded by Commissioner Carriger.